Welcome back, and I'm going to finish up on lab equipment by talking about hot plates and electronic balances. You should have watched the video on lab equipment at this point, so you've gone through all the individual items. If you haven't, you want to stop this video and go back to that one, and then come back to this. So let's talk about the hot plate first. Hot plates get hot, okay? That's why they're called a hot plate. So please keep all your books, everything, off the lab bench when you're working with hot plates. If you're confused about lab safety, you want to go back to the lab safety video and review all the things that you should and shouldn't be doing, especially when working with hot plates. So before I start, I have to put on, and I'm getting them out, my safety goggles. Every time you work with hot plates and liquids, you have to wear your safety goggles. I hate my goggles. There, how's that? Is that good? Yeah, I know. Kim Kardashian, eat your heart out. Anyway, let's talk about the hot plate. Notice that I have a thermometer in an Erlenmeyer flask and it's heating up. Remember what I said in the other video, you would not have a thermometer in a beaker on the hot plate. If you did, you would have to take the thermometer out because it's very unstable. But I can leave it in if I'm using my Erlenmeyer flask. And I could be doing that to watch the temperature go up if I'm trying to heat this liquid to a very specific temperature. If you are trying to heat your liquid to a very specific temperature, you never want to have the thermometer just resting. You want to actually hold it and swirl gently. Don't hit the sides of the Erlenmeyer flask. Because if you have it sitting down at the bottom of the beaker, it's not going to register correctly because it's going to be picking up the heat from the hot plate. So you just kind of hold it. Okay? So let's say that your temperature has gotten to where you want it to go. You're going to turn off your hot plate. Please be very careful when you're working with hot plates. You then want to take your thermometer out and place it on your desktop. You're then going to take your beaker tongs, which can also be used for an Erlenmeyer flask, and remove your flask from the hot plate. All right, and that's it. And now you continue with your lab experiment. I like to have students push the hot plate away from them so that it's not in an area where they're going to be working. So you really want to have it over to the side, and then you continue on with your experiment. All right? So that's using a hot plate. Again, caution, caution, caution. Always wear your goggles and just work carefully and mindfully. And you'll have a great experiment and you won't lose a limb or something. All right, so now I can take my goggles off. Thank goodness. And now I want to talk about the electronic balance. The electronic balance measures mass, which on Earth, because we have gravity, mass, and weight are used interchangeably. But if you wanted to lose weight, you could actually go up to the moon and you would lose a lot of weight, but you would still have the same mass. As you've learned, mass is just a measure of how the particles in an object are packed. So our electronic balances measure mass, and we're going to measure in grams. We're going to turn it on, and then what we have to do is we have to have it zero. So we're going to make sure that it zeroes out. All right, so you always want to have a zero on the screen before you start. And you always want to make sure that it says grams. It's a little g. All right, so we lift up. These are really cool balances. The reason that they have this little chamber is it helps to avoid air molecules getting in there, which can adjust the mass of your object. So the first thing you always want to do is either use a weighing plate or weighing paper. You never want to mass or weigh your object directly on the silver plate. You always need to use something to help protect the plate, avoid contamination. So let's use our weighing paper, and we're going to put that on the silver plate. You're going to close it, and now you need to re-zero because you have to subtract that weighing paper from the final mass. So all you do is you hit 0 and you're back to 0 again. Then you lift up the lid. Don't take your paper off there. Put your objects on it, close the lid, and then get your mass. And it's as easy as that. And then if you want to mask something else, you can use the same paper, take your objects off, close the lid, re-zero it, and then you can put your other object on. Now, what students will typically ask is, well, yes, but what if I'm not massing something that's in a package? What if I'm massing loose items? It's very similar. Let's not use paper, and let's use a weighing dish or a massing dish. You put the dish on, close it, zero your scale, okay? Then you're going to open it, add your object to the dish, close it. Notice I'm closing it every time I'm getting a mass. And then get your mass, open it, and then just remove your dish. And if you have something else to mass, use a new dish. And it's as simple as that. You have to be careful with these. They're very expensive, so please treat them gently. Always keep the chamber closed when you're massing because you'll get a more accurate reading. And always make sure that your scale is zeroed out before you go ahead and obtain a mass. Always use your massing paper and your massing plate. And that's pretty much it. You don't have to wear goggles when you're massing, but you do have to wear goggles when you're using the hot plate. Let's see, what else? I think that's it. Ciao.